What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And today, my guest with an awesome story. I already know I'm going to love this guy is Dante Wright. Hello, counselor.
How you doing, Gary?
I'm living the dream, but I'm always living the dream. Even if it's a nightmare, I don't care. I'm just living the
That's right.
dream.
It's still a dream, right?
Don't wake me up, right? Don't wake me up. Dante, thank you so much for being here. And if it's okay, I'm just going to read your bio real quick, fire it off, and we'll get cooking.
Okay, sounds good.
Good deal. All right, everybody. My guest today is a man whose story sounds like something out of a movie, and I'm sure it will be eventually a movie one of these days. I've got a really good feeling. But it's 100% real. Dante Wright is a criminal defense attorney, speaker, and author of the upcoming memoir, The Judge and the Juvenile. At just 4 years old, Dante was living in poverty when a chance encounter with a judge, literally in the street, changed the entire course of his life. The judge would later become his mentor, adoptive mother, and eventually his law firm partner. Dante has since been featured on CBM International Mother's Day Special, and his story is inspiring thousands across social media as a modern day message of faith, second chances, and purpose. Today, Dante joins us to talk about the power of mentorship, redemption, and what it really means to rise above the system. So all really good stuff, my friend. All really good stuff. And before
Thank
we
you.
jump in, there's so much I want to cover about your story and your life and your book. But because I am contractually obligated, and being a lawyer, you know I have to stick to this now.
That's right. Terms,
I've
terms.
I got to do it, right? So I'm contractually obligated to ask the what if you could question. So
Okay.
Dante, have you ever had a what if you could moment, or is there a what if you could thought you'd love to share with us before we get started?
Yeah, I have a lot of them. I've had a lot of them, and I still have them quite often. And the most defining "what if you could" moment for me likely was during my senior year in college. And I was talking to Judge Poindexter, and we were speaking about law school. And she had planted the seed in my mind that I could potentially go, I should look into it. And even though I had done well in undergraduate and I had been very successful academically, socially, things of that nature, I still had some limiting beliefs because of my background and things of that nature. So I started asking myself, I said, well, she believes in you and your friends believe in you, your siblings believe in you. What if you actually could go to law school and succeed? And the question just began to really take form in my mind, and it really dominated my thoughts for a little while until I convinced myself to sign up for the LSAT and take it. And I got into probably 10 plus law schools and got some really good offers. And that was the start of my journey. That was certainly probably the most pivotal what if you could moment I had. And I thank God I had somebody that believed in me. And thank God I had the courage to even put myself in the position to make the attempt. And that's always the scariest part. It's like the being on the diving board before you jump off into the water. The scariest part is not the actual water, it's the anticipation of jumping. And you'll see people, they'll just say, you know what, I'm not going to do it. And they'll go back and they say, I'm not going to jump. Jumping and hitting the water is quite often it's kind of fun because you feel that thrill, that exhilaration, but it's the anticipation of being on the diving board before the jump that scares most people. And so luckily I had enough courage and I had enough support where I took the dive.
What made you decide not to go into an honest profession? Just kidding. Just kidding. I got too many. I got a bunch of attorneys in my family. I'm only kidding you, but that's it's so true, about the comfort zone.
Yeah,
It's like once you jump off that rock or once you jump off that diving board, especially as like little kids, it's like, let's do it again. Let's do it again.
let's do it
But it
again.
took a half hour to jump and then they can't stop jumping.
Then they can't
But
stop. Yeah,
but did you say that it was you were senior in high school when you
no, this is
decided to
college.
make
I'm
that move?
sorry.
Oh, senior in college. Okay, and then moved
Yeah,
from college to go ahead and become a lawyer. But you had been obviously involved. It's Mrs. Poindexter, right? Miss
that's
Poindexter?
correct.
I mean,
Yep.
you had obviously involved in her for a long time. She's a judge. Um,
Hmm.
what was the hesitation? I mean, what what took you until it was just like you were leaving college to go, okay, I'm gonna make this leap and become an attorney.
Well, when I started to live with Judge Poindexter and her husband, who was also a very good attorney, he was a prosecutor at the time. He was part-time prosecutor, and he also had his law firm as well at the same time. And both of her sons are attorneys as well. So I was around all of these attorneys, and my brother Chris's wife is an attorney. Mrs. Poindexter's brother went to Harvard School of Law. So I've been around a lot of these very prominent, intelligent attorneys and these people that I just look up to this day still. But you still recognize to a degree that that's not necessarily my background. The osmosis effect does play a role, and perhaps that led to me taking the leap. But the limiting thoughts are were still there at that point because I hadn't been around her in that environment, but for so many years. I met her at 4, but I didn't live with her until I was about 15. So 10th, 11th, and 12th grade is when I actually lived with her, and I got to experience a large part of being in the environment with them. And so, I had those 3 years, and it was fantastic, and they were always very supportive. And I get to college. She never pushed it on me. Her husband didn't push it on me. My brothers, Chris and John, didn't push it on me. They just let me figure it out because I think we were all so happy that I was even just in college, just considering my background, that nobody wanted to make it seem like I had to do more than what I had already accomplished. So I think that's why, if I had to give one of many reasons, likely Gary, that's probably why.
Yeah. It's interesting. I talk to people a lot about uh, things of your past, other people overcoming stuff and things like that. And it's interesting how important exposure is to a person's
Absolutely.
life. And you see people who you say, well, why don't you give that a try? And like you said, that fear, that self-doubt, that lack of confidence. And it's really a lot of times they just were never exposed to something more or something
Yeah.
that they've seen other people similar to them who can do it. And it seems like exposure played a big part in where you went, where you are, and how you ended up here, huh?
That's correct. And I think that is across the board for almost any person. I mean, exposure could be also television and you see somebody that you admire and you want to become perhaps a elite athlete or a neuroscientist or an astrologist. That could be exposure as well. But I don't think that that digital form can defeat the actual, I call it the analog version of it, where you can actually put your hands on it and you can feel it. It's tangible. You can see it, touch it. They're right in front of you and they're very, very believable. So that to me is the most powerful form of inspiration when somebody can actually say, I can reach out and touch this person and communicate with them. And I see how they go about their daily living. I see how they go about their professional lives, their personal lives. And that's what did it for me. I think that was the deciding factor in saying, well, Dante, if you go to law school, even if it does not work out for you, they'll still be proud of you because you got in and you got so much further than your life would have allowed you to get originally. Just thinking about all of the stuff that happened in my background is it's really incredible to even say that I'm here right now, and I'm very grateful for it. And I'm sure there's some other power that's present that's perhaps moving pieces around the chessboard and allowing me to see certain things. And so I'm grateful. And I do think exposure, like you said, Gary, is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with it. I mean, I I was going to be the center for the LA Lakers, and then Shaq
Yeah.
beat me out. I'm like, dude, seriously? I mean,
Just a
Shaq
foot too
beat me. I
short.
can't even believe he took Shaq beat me for that. So there are some limitations to even when you get that, right? You know, even when you get that exposure, you have that desire. You know, you see some kids with just burning desire to do
Yeah.
stuff, you know. And it's just so, you know, there's so much you could do, but like you said, I mean, just getting into the law school, just achieving that. Not everyone who goes to law school becomes an attorney. You know, they find just from that avenue where they might go other places. But
Mhm.
let's go back. Let's go back because your story's pretty awesome. So some kids chasing you across the street, or you're chasing a ball, or you're gonna go get your bike out of the street at 4 years old, and
Yeah.
and all of a sudden it's like the movie, right? It will. By the way, who's going to play you in the movie? Denzel, like a young Denzel, or who's going to
Yeah, maybe we
play
get
you?
Denzel. We'll see whether Will Smith is available. You know, he didn't have much to do with it.
I love Will Smith, and he's pretty buff. So I don't know. You know, I love Will
Yeah.
Smith, but so I just I could visualize the movie. So this just where were you at four? I mean, where were you living? What were you doing? What was going on with 4-year-old Dante that this whole
Yeah.
thing
So
changed his life?
we were living in Surrey County, Virginia. My mother, my six older siblings, and myself. My mom at that time would have been about 33. If I was four, she was 29 when she had me, but she had seven kids before 30. And so we're all living in this house. And on this particular day, I remember it very vividly. My brother takes my bicycle and he rides out into the street. I give chase. We get out there, and this vehicle pulls up at almost the exact moment when we're in the street, and car stops. And this person steps out with almost a halo, it seems like. And she puts us back into the yard, and she goes to the house and starts to knock on the door. And I was concerned that I was going to be in trouble. I said, "Oh my gosh, we were in the street. You know, we're going to get likely a whooping for being out here. We shouldn't have been out there. Like,
Is that when your mom says go to the tree and grab a branch
and
off the
grab a
tree
switch.
or a switch and
Get
bring
a
it back?
switch. Get a branch of switch." I said, "Oh man, we are in trouble." But that's not what happened. You know, she talked to my mom. I don't recall exactly what they said, but it seemed to me, and this is in my 4-year-old mind, that almost in the next moment, she reappeared with this huge van that could fit all seven kids, and it had a television inside, and she would start taking us around to these different events: bowling, skating, swimming. She put my brother and I into Boy Scouts at that age. So we really got into a very deep relationship with her. And I later asked her in life, why does she feel so compelled to just show up for people that she had no connection to, no obligation to? And what you end up learning, Gary, is that people sometimes need you the way that you need them. You know, she was 54 into her career as a judge. Both of her sons had left for college, law school, graduated. They were into their personal lives. And maybe it was empty nest syndrome, and she saw these kids in the street, and maybe she thought it was God speaking to her. You know, I don't know, but it was completely random. And it just took off from there. We spent a lot of time with her, and she was very involved. She never asked for $1 from my mother. She didn't have any money to give. My mom didn't, but she was just very, very involved, and it was incredible.
So it's like she didn't just adopt you, it's like she adopted the whole family.
Oh, certainly, certainly, yeah, yeah. It wasn't just me. So my brother lived with her for about 9 years. My sister lived with her for a few years. And even throughout adulthood, she would do things like purchase cars for my siblings, her husband. Mr. Poindexter would do the same thing. They would just very, very involved, super involved. It wasn't just me. It was across the board. It was the entire family just took to them, and they took to us.
But what did she see in you? I mean, what did she see? I mean, there's a lot of little kids running in the street chasing bicycles, right? I mean, did she ever say, or you ever ask her, what did you see in me? I mean, there must have been something. There had to have been some spiritual connection or something, right? That she said, this kid, this it's this kid. I'm gonna take this kid in my wing and his family or something. Did you ever ask her what?
Mhm. I have not asked her that directly. She said different things to me as it relates to that. And I guess she'd be the best person to probably answer the question. But what I can tell you is that at an early age, I showed a certain talent for reading. And that was pretty obvious. When I was in fourth grade, I had an article in the Daily Press for reading over 200 books. And so I just loved reading and I was super into academics and I just enjoyed it. So, and I had,
Wait,
according to
wait,
her,
wait,
I
wait,
had this
and
person.
wait, hold on a minute. At fourth grade, I'm sorry to interrupt you, counselor, but at fourth grade, you already read 200 books?
Yeah. I have the article at home still. It was called, the title was Eager Reader. That was the name of the article. And they detailed how I read all of these books. Now, mind you, again, I was just simply bored. That's why I kept reading all these books. They were like mostly sports books and stuff like that. And the author's
Yeah, but
name,
still, I know 60-year-old people who still haven't read 200 books.
I was
Some
bored,
people
man.
just don't read.
They don't.
So you're
Yeah.
so you're the are you the baby? Are you number seven in the family? So you're number
Yes, sir.
seven. So you're the baby. So your mom's just got to be whooped, right? I mean, she's got seven kids, right? So this lady shows up
Yeah.
at her door, and you're tagging along, and you got your tail between your legs because you're thinking, "Oh man, I know I messed up. Mom's gonna be mad, right?"
Yeah.
So, so what did your mom think of this lady just knocking on the door and going, "Hey, by the way, your son's awesome, and I want to take you guys and go swimming in ice cream parlors and bowling." What did
You
she
know
think
what?
of that?
That's a good question. I have never asked her that question, but I would venture to think, Gary, she's from Brooklyn, New York, and so are my six oldest siblings. And people in New York are not very warm to the idea of a stranger just walking up and saying, "Hey, I have an interest in hanging out with you and your kids and doing things." That's just not normal. That's not normal. You can walk an entire day around New York City and never get one person to say hello to you
Oh,
the entire day.
absolutely.
The entire day. 'Cause I lived there for a few years and I said, wow, people don't even speak out here. They don't say to you. So,
And like I said, your mom had to be beat, right? Because she's got all these
oh,
kids.
definitely.
It's not easy,
Yeah.
right? So she's
Yeah.
probably looking at this lady like, Miss, thanks and everything, but I got a lot of stuff to do in the
I
house.
got a
I don't
lot
know
going
what you're
on.
thinking, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
So at some point, so you meet Miss Poindexter, and then I mean, at what point does this interaction happen? I mean, like right away, after she knocks on the door, does it come back a couple months later, or how does this start rolling?
I swear, Gary, to me, it felt like it was the next day. I'm sure it wasn't the next day, but it wasn't very long after we met her that she reappeared with this van. And this became a regular thing. It became a regular
Hmm.
occurrence. She would pick us all up. At least five of us would go most times. Sometimes all of us would go, and we would just go out for these outings. And it was incredible. It was really incredible. And she has a very nice house in Surrey County. And so as a kid, I said, wow, this is a mansion. It's not a mansion. As a
Yeah.
4-year-old,
It's like the Beverly Hillbillies mansion. You're too young to
yeah,
remember Hill,
yeah,
right?
that's
But
right.
it's like you're just like this thing's massive.
This thing is massive, and so that's the way my 4-year-old mind worked. And I just loved going there. She had toys and stuff for us, a huge yard, 10 acres or so where you can just run around outside, basketball court for my brother and I to play on. And it was just amazing. And she would do birthday parties for us there, Halloween parties, have us over there and have costumes and stuff for us. So it was incredible. And I think she got as much from it as we did too, because,
Yeah.
she had these interesting children around her now who were high energy and all over the place, bouncing off of the walls. So it was pretty cool.
So, how many bathrooms did you have in your home with your family?
We have one.
There you go, right? So how many
We have
bathrooms
one.
did Miss Poindexter have?
So let's count. Inside of the house, it's a 2.5 bathroom. Then there was another half bathroom attached to the garage. Then there was a mother-in-law suite with another full bathroom. So 4.5 total, maybe something like
So
that.
what do you guys think when you show up and you go, we don't have to wait in line to go to the bathroom?
It's incredible, right?
That had to be pretty amazing. Just that.
I'm telling you,
Because
that's an
I
amenity.
have, yeah, I had a two-bedroom, one bath house that I raised my boys in. We had a little ranch on a couple acres, and it was two bedrooms
Uh-huh.
and one bathroom. Drove my wife crazy. And I go, look, me and the boys will just pee outside. What's the big
That's
deal?
right.
You just use,
That's right.
you know.
That's right.
So I know what it's like to have one bathroom, right?
Yep.
But
Yeah, man.
that's just such a beautiful story. And then
Yeah.
I would imagine, you know, like you mentioned, your other brother's an attorney, right? One of your brothers is an attorney.
Well,
Did
her
that
two sons, who I call my
her
older
two sons?
brothers. Yep,
Okay.
they're
So I
attorneys.
mean,
Yes.
did all of the family, did your brothers and sisters, did they kind of get the same vibe of the exposure? Did it kind of help them? Or were you just that special little dude that just kind of absorbed it more, maybe was there more? Did they get as much from it as you did?
They didn't. They didn't. Unfortunately, they didn't. And they're doing fine. They're not doing what I'm doing. They didn't go on and finish high school or go to college. I think one of my sisters did finish high school, but the other ones did not. But they're doing fine. And, they're not people who are making trouble out here in life and whatnot. They're doing fine. They did not take to it the way I did. My older brother, my actual older brother, he had the most time with them. He had about 9 years with them. I had roughly 3 or 4 living inside the household. And always wondered why he didn't take to the lifestyle, excuse me, to the lessons, the teachings. It just never stuck with him. It never stuck with him. And when I was exposed to it, I took it so seriously. I thought it was amazing because I just needed a stable environment to cultivate myself pretty much. I did well in school no matter where I was, even throughout the instability, did well in school. And I always cared about academics. And that was always my thing. I just loved reading. I liked sports. I liked academics. I was social, had a lot of good friends, never got in any trouble. So all of my issues were only about instability, living here, there, this place, that place, just kind of bouncing around and never having a home base. So once I got that home base with the Poindexters, I took off. I sprinted out the gate. And for me, it was all hands on deck. I was ready to go.
Yeah. You do a lot it seems like you do mentoring, right? You've got your you've got your book coming out. You've got a lot of people on social media and stuff. You post a lot of positive stuff. Um, I think, do you run into people where, it's like they have twins, right? They talk about nature or nurture. You have two twins, two boys that are twin brothers or two sisters, and one goes one way, one goes the other way. The old nature and nurture kind of thing. I mean, do you just see that sometimes people are just at their core more willing to accept certain things more than other people, maybe. Maybe we just are different at our core, and so we could be exposed to the same thing, but it just doesn't affect us the same way.
I agree, certainly, because both things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and the sun can choose to shine on two flowers. Maybe one grows more, and the other one, for whatever reason, just doesn't blossom. So I think so, certainly, Gary. And he and I needed different things. I didn't need as much attention and nurturing as him. I needed a bed, a roof, a nice place to stay, and that was essentially it. They didn't have to do any hand holding to me. I applied to school myself. I applied to law school myself. I applied for the LSAT myself. Everything was just done myself.
Mhm.
So I needed very little attention. They could just show up. Hey, Dante, how you doing? How's school going? It was going well. Okay. All right, cool, man. Keep doing it. It was just as simple as that. That was really all it was. So they never had to sit with me and walk me through things and say, okay, do this, do that. I would really use my own judgment, and I would ask them for advice, certainly as a young man. But that was it. I didn't need a whole lot. And I think he needed much more than me. He needed more attention, more love, more nurturing. And that's perhaps why he didn't assimilate as well,
Yeah.
because they were very involved people. They were there, presently loving, but they didn't hold your hand. They didn't baby you. It wasn't that. They had their own lives. They still had very busy careers.
Yeah. What did their two sons think of this menagerie showing up? You got this van full of kids showing up at their house going, because I personally go, Mom, seriously, what do
Right,
you do?
that's what it was.
Have you
She was
lost your
crazy.
mind?
Exactly. And she probably lost part of it. I'm sure that's what they thought initially. I'm sure. And then, as all things occur, you say, okay, well, you get kind of attached to people, and you say, all
Yeah.
right, well, now you like having them around, you like seeing them, and they become part of your life, and you say, okay, well, this seemed quite crazy, and to a degree, it certainly was crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it certainly was crazy to it. In their defense, it was certainly crazy, out of the norm, absolutely. But over time, they became warm to the idea. It didn't take them long at all. I'm sure
Yeah.
after a few visits, they said, okay, well, I guess they're going to actually be around. This is not a temporary thing. And they've been super supportive. I love them like they're my blood brothers. I talk to them about things, about life. I live with my brother Chris in New York for a few months when I moved to New York,
Hmm.
and just always supportive, man. They've given me experiences in life that I can never replace. My brother John as well, he's the oldest of the two of their sons, and he's in Washington D.C. and I stayed with him for a little while, and I just love to go visit them and hang out with them and have a beer, just do regular stuff, man. And we talk about all of these different things and our connection and how we got here and how it's just continued to grow. And it's amazing that here I am at 32 and I've known them for about 28 years and we still have a relationship.
Not crazy, because blood does not make you family. You
That's
know,
correct.
I,
Yeah,
I I have a half sister that I haven't talked to in 20 years, and I'll
it's
probably never
unfortunate,
talk to
man.
her again. I don't
Yeah.
personally
Probably
like
never
her,
talk
but
to again.
she's crazy, right? But
Uh-huh.
I have friends from when I was 6, 7 years old that I'm still friends with that are my family. They
Yep.
are my blood family.
Yep.
Their blood's not running through my veins, but you know what I mean? We're family. And there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, that alone
Definitely.
is a huge gift, right? Just that alone, those two guys and Mr. and Mrs. Poindexter, that alone, there's a safety thing to that, isn't there? There's kind of like a
Certainly.
safe, it gives you the ability to stretch a little bit because you feel safe, don't you?
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. Do, on your, stalking you, of course, 'cause I had to know a little bit about you. On your Facebook, when you did posted some graduation photos and stuff like that, you broke down the amount of African Americans who have different degrees and different levels and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And when we talked about exposure earlier, you know, do you see, I mean, is that a lot of the challenge? Is there just not a lot of exposure in the Black community to do these advances, or where are we failing in that realm where you were able to do so well with the help of the Poindexters? They took you under their wing, but still you didn't have to go where you went. You know what I mean? I mean, you could have said, "Hey, thanks for everything and I'm out of here. I'm gonna go do something else," but you didn't. Um, where are we lacking in that, you think?
There's not enough direct exposure, I would say, Gary. That's likely the issue. Again, I got extremely lucky. So, me being here is certainly part and parcel of my experience with them firsthand. If I would have had secondhand experience, I don't know. I'm just really not certain whether I'd be here or not. I think I'd be doing something. Who knows whether it be this or not? I think it's really direct experience. And having a chance to be exposed to the actual elements that create that person or that profession on an ongoing basis. Because again, as you said it earlier, even though I was around them for a number of years, I even had limiting beliefs still. I still had that. And I had direct exposure because I was still dealing with some of the trauma that occurred to me earlier in life, just to be in, again, displaced so many times. So direct exposure, I believe, is the best way to address it. But even with that, it's that's difficult because unless they're your children or your relatives, they're not in the same household as you. And it's hard to account for, mathematically at least, for the amount of hours they're exposed to other things. And so if I have, let's say I have a child, and my child goes to grade school, and they're in school 6, 7 hours a day. They come home, they're watching the television for a few hours, on the game for a few hours, whatever they're doing, they're exposed to all these different elements. Even if I come home and I spend 1 hour with the child, you think about the fact that they've spent more time with other elements outside of me over the course of a week that accumulates. And now those 6 to 10 hours a day become 40 hours in a week. And my 1 hour a day is only 4 or 5 hours. And over the course of a month or years and years, I'm now losing, even though they've been directly exposed to me. So it's a very nuanced thing, Gary. I don't have the answer to it whatsoever. I think that direct exposure is probably the best way to address it. But then on the other side, the person has to have the desire to do these things.
Yeah.
And quite often, that's what I see, at least in minority communities, is that we get to a certain point and then we want to just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to cash in my chips. I'm done. I don't want to go get the advanced degree. I don't want to go to school anymore. I'm afraid to take this exam that appears to be insurmountable, like the bar exam or the MCAT or things like that. Or if you are an engineer, I think that's part of it too. Is that we just cash in our chips too early, and we don't give ourselves at least the chance to fail. At least a chance. Give yourself the chance. Because if I never give myself the chance to fail, then I'm always going to question my potential. So that's part of it too, I believe.
Yeah. If you grow up in fear, because there's a lot of fear when you're number seven out of seven kids, and there's food-ish fear, there's where, sleep fear, there's where am I going we're gonna be next fear. And when you grow up with that internally, it's a hard battle. It's hard to kick that to go, okay, well, now I'm going to start taking a bunch of chances because if you've kind of just had the experience of, getting your head kicked in every time you try to advance, at some point you just kind of, it's like a dog who's been beat too much, it's just a
Hmm.
kid who's scared to take some chances. But also, back to the nature and nurture thing. I mean, you were a fourth grader who read 200 books. I mean, you obviously, Mrs. Poindexter saw something in you at a 4-year-old. Now, I've got a 3-year-old grandson, so I know what a 4-year-old's like. And you know what I mean? So there's obviously something in you. There was something in you that you were born with that somehow the universe and life and circumstances weren't able to beat out of you. And that's a big kudos to you. It is to your mom, it is to your family, it is to the Poindexters, but it's also to you, man, because you beat a lot of odds.
Certainly. Yeah, certainly. And I think to go back to what you just said, Gary, if you live in that constant fight or flight mode where you're living in anxiety and fear, that can certainly debilitate you without question, without question. But it can also drive you. It can be the catalyst. Because if you say, well, there is no flight, there's only fight that's available to me, that's my only option. Now I have no choice but to go forward. And my mind shifted to that at a certain point. After I got into law school, I said, well, I'm now here and I have no plan B. It's either be a lawyer or be nothing else. I have no plans on failing or flunking out whatsoever. I will be here for the 3 years. I will finish. I will take the bar exam. I got to pass the bar exam, and then I'll keep on going from there. So you can use it both ways. You can view it as
Yeah.
a deterrence or a negative thing, or view it as a catalyst and say, well, I'm going to use this to really propel me.
Yeah. You kind of burn the boats. It's like, well, I'm gonna burn the boats, man. I'm gonna
Yeah,
go and this
yeah.
is it. I'm
This
not
is
gonna
it.
come up with a plan B because that could give me that easy out. And
Yeah.
and you're so right about that because I know a lot of trust fund babies who end up with nothing because they
Hmm.
were given stuff. It was too easy for them, right? And so they
Yeah.
didn't have ownership of anything. They didn't have to fight for anything. Everything was too easy for them. So when they lost everything, it was like, yeah, whatever, but you're right. People sometimes who have to really fight their way through appreciate every step, every level, every achievement. They
Absolutely.
appreciate it a little bit more. And when they get there, they appreciate it even more. And then some of them, like you, give back. You say, now it's time for me to give back. Let's take the blessings that I've had and start reaching back and start picking
Yeah.
people up. So you
Absolutely.
mentioned mentoring in your, speaking, author, stuff like that. So what do you find, what's next for Dante besides the law firm and the book and the movie with Will Smith, who I'm going to call because we're tight. Me and Will are tight. Um, what do you think's next for you? I mean, what do you want to do now with what you're achieving?
My main goal, Gary, is to really empower the underdog. And that's what I want to do. Just continue to put out content and a message and perhaps speak to people during different programs, conferences, whatever it's going to be, to empower the next underdog. Because so many of us are underdogs in life in general, because life will beat you down. It will beat on you every single day. And you can rope a dope it if you want to, like Ali. You can punch back like Tyson. You can do the Philly shell like Floyd Mayweather. You figure out what your style is, but you have to respond to life, is what I'm saying. Figure out. You can Sugar Ray Leonard it, figure it out, but find your style and respond to life as it is beating on you in real time. Because if you don't, then you're in the corner on the stool and your cut man says your eyes closed and you can't go back out there. And there's a white towel that's flying over
But
your
that's
head.
when you say, "Cut me, Mick. Cut me,
Help me,
Mick."
Mick. Help me, Mick. That's right. Oh, man. I love Rocky. One of my favorite series. Love it.
Love it.
Love it, man.
But
So that's what
but
I'm
you're
doing.
but I didn't mean to cut you off because you're on a good roll, and you're obviously you're a boxing fan like me because you just named some of the greats ever.
I
But
love
you're so
boxing. Yeah.
right. I'm not as polite as you, and I always say life will kick you in the nuts, and I tell my
Oh,
kids
that's
that all the
absolutely.
time. And I
Yeah.
say
I like that.
I say you've got to be ready for that. You cannot ever get to the point where you're comfortable and taking things for granted. And you sure as heck have to remember what it took to get wherever you are. I'm very, very lucky that I've got two sons, two very good young men, good head on their shoulders, good husbands, good fathers. Um, but I never hesitate to remind them, your dad's 62. He's made a lot of mistakes. A lot of weird stuff has come up when you don't expect it.
Yeah.
So you're right. You do have to keep fighting because life will do that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Are the Poindexters, not that it matters, but I'm just curious how, because you should talk about faith. Are the Poindexters, are they faithful people? Are they religious people?
Yeah, so we were raised Christian in that household. We attended Cypress Baptist Church in Surrey County, and they're intellectuals who are also based in faith as well. So we would go to Sunday school, go to the church service on Sundays, and it was really funny because Mr. Poindexter, almost every single Sunday when I was in high school, what he would do, he loved going to Sunday school because he and the teacher were really good friends, Mr. Alonzo. And so as the teacher is teaching whatever the lesson is for that Sunday, Mr. Poindexter is analyzing it intellectually. And then he's asking questions and having like nice banter and some intellectual debates with him about the Bible versus science and how they actually converge and things. It was really interesting. And so he thoroughly enjoyed that. That was one of his hobbies. And they loved each other. So it was cool to see that. But
That's
yes, we went
awesome.
to Cypress Baptist Church for a very long
Yeah.
time.
I love that. I love that. What do you think, what do you think, or where do you think that faith plays a role in people's lives today? It seems like we're losing faith in a lot of things, not just faith in religion, but faith in each other, faith in people, faith in hope. Where do you think faith plays a role in what you've been able to achieve?
That plays a major role. Plays a major role. I am not someone who believes that I'm in control of all of the pieces on the board. There's a rook, there's a bishop, king, queen, a knight, pawns, and certain things align in life that we can't explain. Now,
Yeah.
you can choose to say, well, my faith is in this or that. Whatever you choose is your personal preference. But I would say that the person that has that belief, that deep faith, they understand that there's so much that happens in life. We're out of control. It's not in our control whatsoever. And it's really important to me to preach to people. I say preach, I'm not a pastor.
Yeah.
I speak about what I call the five pillars of success, and faith is one of those pillars. And I say,
Yeah.
you have to figure out what that means to you and what it means for you. And as you explore yourself and you explore your own journey, you'll figure it out, whatever that means for you. But you need to have some faith in something beyond yourself because we are not all powerful and we're not omnipotent or all knowing. We're not those things. And I think if you ground yourself in faith, it allows you to be someone that can pour into the next person, whether that's your spouse, children, your neighbor, anybody. So that's my position on that, Gary.
I love that. And so much of it there's a kindness in faith. I find that faithful people are kind people. They understand, yeah, there's some good and bad. I mean, that's just it. Heaven, hell, good and
Hmm.
bad, God and the devil, whatever. But there's good and
That's right.
bad. But but there's also a level of kindness and faith. You're willing to take people, give them a little more slack. You're not so
Certainly.
judgmental when you're a faithful person. And your story is just amazing. Obviously,
Thank you,
the
Gary.
Poindexters are some sort of angels from somewhere, man. I'll tell
I'm
you
telling
what.
you. I'm
But
telling you.
but I keep coming back to it, Dante. I mean, listen, there were seven people exposed to that.
Yeah,
And one of them rose up, and that is no judgment on the rest of the family. We all have our own path. That nothing in any way demeaning to anyone in your family. Like you said, they're all doing well. We all have our own path, and we
that's correct.
find our path at the time we're supposed to find it if we're looking, right? I mean, if we are
Absolutely.
looking, we'll find our path. So, I love it. I can't wait for the book. Can't wait for the movie. Can't wait to see you on the speaking tour. I could already see you're going to be out there speaking. There's just no doubt. I don't know how much you're doing it now, but you're going to be doing a lot more, my friend. You're a young
Oh,
man.
thanks, Gary.
But so I lied. You should have known that because you're an attorney. I lie. I'm a liar. You probably saw that right out the gate. Say that dude's a liar. I said I had the one question, and I had the what if you could question. But I actually have two questions that I ask my guests, and I say, before we go, before we sign off, I'm so grateful for your time, and it's time just flies.
I'm grateful to
Um,
be here, Gary. Thank you for your time.
yeah, so I just have one last question, and it's if there's something that means something to Dante, it doesn't have to be about your story, or it can be. It can be about your family. It could be a faith. It could be anything. It could be a quote that means something to you. But if there's something that means something to Dante that you'd like to leave us with, what would that last thought be?
Well, Gary, what I always say to friends, relatives, is that your potential is only what you define it as. If you have limiting thoughts, limiting beliefs, then you will always be shackled by the constraints of your psyche. And my message is to unshackle your potential. You have to free it. And you can't free it all at once. Because if you think about someone who is in, say, handcuffs and maybe they have shackles on their ankles and maybe they have chains across their body, free one limb first. Just free one limb. And then as you do that, find the key to the next lock and unlock that, free another limb. And then you just continue down this journey of trying to figure out who am I to this world? Who am I to my family, to my God, to my children, to my neighbor? But you will never get there if you allow your psychological constraints to remain. But you can't do everything at one time. You cannot go from pain, hurt, to being completely healed the next day. It is really all a process. And the process to me is the most important part because the process really defines whether or not you are meant to walk this journey and walk this path. The product is nice. Once you get the product, it feels great. We all like opening gifts during Christmas or whatever the holiday may be for that particular household. And we feel great seeing the actual gift. But imagine how hard that parent had to work, how many hours the parent had to work just to afford the gift, then to go out and buy the wrapping, then to come home and wrap the gift, then to hide it from the child. So that way the child can't figure out what they're getting for that particular holiday. Then to put it beneath the tree and to wrap the tree with lights and all of these ornaments, all of these different things. That's the process. The beauty is in that. And their joy is just seeing this child unravel that gift, rip it apart, rip the wrapping apart, and marvel at what they've been given. And so I say that the process is where the beauty is. The product is nice, it's fantastic, but that process is beautiful. But you can't start the process until you begin to unshackle your own potential. Free yourself of your limiting beliefs, one limb at a time, and then you'll get there.
I love that. Gosh, I love that so much. I mean, and there's so much there. There's so much there because aren't people just so impatient now?
Very,
I mean,
very
we
impatient.
instant microwave, instant satisfaction, instant
Yep,
gratification. I want it
yep.
now. I want it now, right? I got Amazon. I order it. It shows up in 10 minutes, right? It's like
It
we're
does.
just instant.
Yeah.
And what you said is such a beautiful lost truth. It's a process. Things take time. I'm 62 and I'm still learning to tie my shoes and chew gum and walk at the same time. I mean, it is a process, my friend. And
Absolutely.
if you don't understand that, or if you don't want to learn that, and you don't take the time to appreciate that, then you're just going to keep getting frustrated and stop,
That's correct.
right? And you just won't
Yeah.
get there. And I just had this great visual. You're so young, but you ever heard of a guy named Harry Houdini? You heard of
Oh,
Houdini?
absolutely. Yeah,
Right? Okay,
absolutely.
so a lot of people won't remember, but man, I just visualized what you said. It gave me the goosebumps. So Harry Houdini's hanging upside down in this tank of water,
Uh-huh.
just covered in chains and locks and all this stuff.
I have
And
not seen
he's
that trick. Really? Okay.
well, that's actually how he died too. But he
Oh,
that was his
gosh.
go-to trick. If you watch, I think it's Tony Curtis plays Harry Houdini. And if you ever watch the old Harry Houdini movie, yeah, the
Hmm.
dude used to hang upside down in a tank just with as many chains as they could put on him and locks and stuff, and he would get out and come out of the water, and
Wow.
then he'd go, ah, it'd be,
Wow.
um, but I visualize that. But also, slavery, slavery
Yeah.
comes to mind
Yeah.
we were in Washington, D.C., and we went to the Smithsonian, we went to the African American Museum and stuff like that. And you think, it's just these
Beautiful
human
museum.
beings laying on the bottom of these boats, just in chains. I mean, stacked. It's like, it's insanity. I got goosebumps. But so you think
Yeah.
about those chains too. of your heritage and my heritage and what people have gone through. And if they had just stopped, you wouldn't be here, right?
No, not exactly.
All the
If
people
they
wouldn't be
said,
here.
you know what, I'm just gonna give up and that's it. And this will
Yeah.
be my last journey, or whatever they would have decided to do, that'd be it, man. So you gotta take the
Yeah.
good with the bad. Life is polarizing. Light without dark doesn't exist. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, good without bad doesn't exist either. So, but you
Doesn't
are
exist.
good, and I like that, and I love this story. And
I
Dante,
appreciate it,
again,
Gary.
I'm so grateful for your time. I'm grateful for your story. I'm so grateful for the family that took you in, and I'm grateful for the man that you are, and you're going to continue to be. So, and you and your fiance are going to give us more wonderful, amazing people, I hope, and
Yes, that is the
they too.
plan. That is the plan. That's the master plan, Gary.
And you let
Yeah,
her
she's
know I
phenomenal.
said that too. You can say,
I'm gonna
Gary
tell.
said
I'm gonna
we got
show
to
her
have some
this.
kids. All right, my friend. Everybody, you've just been exposed to the wonderfulness of Mr. Dante Wright. Look for his upcoming book, The Judge and the Juvenile. And Dante, where can people find you? What's your handles and and your websites and all this stuff? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so they can find me on social media, Instagram. It's Dante Wright ESQ, which is short for Esquire. They use that. You have attorneys in your family. So I'm there. They can also go to everythingdante.com. They can find more stuff about the book and things like that. And yeah, reach out to me, shoot me a message. Love to talk. I enjoy meeting people, talking to them, hearing their stories as well. So I'm around.
We know where to find you. And if I get in
Yep.
trouble, I know where to find a good
Give
attorney
me a
too.
call.
So all right, my friend. Thank you, everybody. Again, this was Dante Wright. Was so great for your time. Look for the book one more time, The Judge and the Juvenile. I might play the lead role. I might play the young Dante.
It may
I
have
don't
to be
know
you,
because I'm
Gary.
sure.
It may have to be.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys
All right,
later.
thanks, Gary. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.